If you want to be a leader, then you're going to need to be able to get the best out of your people. And a huge part of that will be your ability to provide helpful, insightful feedback so that you can get more of the behaviors that you want and less of the behaviors that you don't. So to do that, keep in mind, feedback isn't just criticism, it's also praise. You actually have an invisible relationship bank account with everyone, and we'll get to that in a second. And how well you articulate the feedback will shape how well that person responds and if they even remember it. Now, did you know that you actually have this invisible relationship account with everybody? And it's always on. You can think of it kind of like this. Every time you praise somebody, give positive reinforcement, build them up in a way that they appreciate, you earn 1 credit in that relationship account. But every time you give them constructive criticism, you spend more like 10 credits. Now, you do not want that account in overdraft because then you're just that critical jerk that nobody wants to talk to and they won't pick up when they see your name on their call display. And surprisingly, it's not much different from managers. They might have the fancy title, but their relationship capital works the same way. And it happens like this because the person needs to trust you and respect you before they can really listen to you. Without that, their response is just as likely to be, well, what do you mean you think I should change? Like, who do you think you are? Like, you think you're so great? And then suddenly you're in this like verbal wrestling match that nobody wanted and benefits no one. So keep that account in the black, build that foundation of trust and respect well ahead of time. You also may have heard of the sandwich technique of giving feedback. That's when you say something nice and then you deliver your criticism and then you say something nice. And my experience is that technique does not work at all. The praise does not come across genuine. And then you leave them confused about like how you really think about this. So sandwiches are great for picnics, but not for feedback. How well you articulate your feedback makes a big, big difference in how the other person responds and if they remember it at all. So to get started, only speak if your intention is to build that person up. Be brief. This can be triggering stuff, and you have maybe a 10-second window. After that, their poor, triggered, hijacked brain is just addled by stress. And all they hear is like the Charlie Brown teacher, wah, 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 and they simply cannot hear what you're saying. And then thirdly, be specific. This is about the impact of observable behavior so they can action what you're telling them. Now, praise is easier and safer to give because like within reason, even if you mess it up, you can't really do any damage. However, constructive criticism is not easy. It is not like that because it can be triggering and people can have strong reactions. Even as a manager or leader, giving constructive criticism is tough no matter how much you do it, but especially if you're new to it. And the image that comes to my mind is, you know those movies where the hero is defusing the bomb and that poor, sweaty, stressed out person is in there with the wire cutters and they probably got somebody yelling on the radio in their ear and they're like, cut the red wire, not the blue wire. And giving constructive criticism can feel like that. Your internal monologue is like, oh God, like I just want to get through this conversation without this thing blowing up on me. And by making sure you've taken the time ahead of time to establish that foundation of trust and respect, and by taking the time to articulate your feedback expertly, you can cut the right wire. And then you'll build someone up, not blow someone up. Now let's say a colleague of yours, let's call him Brandon, just totally bombed a sales meeting, like train wreck terrible. And now he's regrouping with you after. A weak-ish example of feedback would be, that presentation sucked, dude. I mean, honestly, what was wrong with you in there? It's not helpful. It's not specific. But a good example might sound more like, hey, Brandon, hold up a second. I want to talk about what happened in there. A, it did not go well, and I think we all know that. So the customer said that security was their top consideration. However, you cut all the security content out, and then you dodged all of their security questions. Now they think that you're hiding something. So How do you plan to address that, and what help do you need? Now, let's be clear, neither one is fun to hear, but at least the second can steer poor Brandon in the right direction. It's worthwhile to be expert with your praise, especially if you want it to really sink in and make an impact. So let's say Susan just did an amazing job on a sales presentation. Like, it was just incredible. A weak example of praise would be like, hey, Susan, good job in there. It's kind of like saying, hey, nice shoes. It's vague, it's forgettable, it's not specific, in one ear and out the other. But a great example might sound a little bit more like, Susan, please come here, I want to share something with you. The way that you delivered that presentation was just inspired. Specifically, the storyboard approach that you took an incredibly complicated solution and made it as easy to understand as a bedtime story. I think that you just made 3 months worth of progress in 30 minutes, and I've already sent a message to your general manager telling her exactly that. Now, there's a lot more oomph in the second one, and Susan might actually still remember it tomorrow, and for sure it will make a stronger impact on her mentally and emotionally. Now, before we wrap up, I feel like I need to put a disclaimer out there. This is like one of those videos that shows you how to like jailbreak or hack your phone with a big warning. Following the steps in this video will void your warranty. Proceed with caution. There are times to keep your criticism to yourself. If your intention is anything other than building that person up, keep it to yourself. If that person is realistically not in a state of mind to benefit from hearing it right now, then keep it to yourself, at least for now. And definitely keep it to yourself if you're speaking to the wrong people. Feedback becomes gossip if you're not very selective about who you share it with, and gossip is universally toxic. So please don't just run out there with these techniques and be like, criticism for you, and criticism for everybody. If you really want to go out and give this stuff a try, then maybe start by sprinkling some of that praise and positive reinforcement around your workplace or home. Everybody loves those sprinkles, and they won't break the bank or void your relationship warranties.